True. Let's go to Karma Green, we steady on the rise. Digging truth from ancient scenes, we open blinded eyes. Rhyme sharp like pirates' lines, we break the bondage tight. Kamji speaking revolution, keep the fire burning. Chimpy drums guide our stride, we march with purpose proud. No more silence, we collide, our voices thunder loud. Politics and history, we stitch them in every verse. From Pharaoh's throne to Yaoundé streets, we claim the Kamji verse.
So Africans around the world must get reparations. And they must at least make the demand for reparations because it is a just demand. Africans around the world must get reparations. And they must at least make the demand for reparations because it is a just demand. Africans around the world must get reparations. And they must at least make the demand for reparations because it is a just demand. Africans around the world must get reparations. And they must at least make the demand for reparations because it is a just demand. But beyond that, Africa too must do something for her sons and daughters here in the diaspora, in the Western world. Africa too must do something for her sons and daughters here in the diaspora, in the Western world. Africa too must do something for her sons and daughters here in the diaspora, in the Western world. Oh yes, some of you don't like that. You say Africa don't owe us nothing. Oh hell yes they do. Some continental Africans brag about the slave trade. Some of them say, oh my father and my great-grandfather was in the slave business. I mean, they're pompous Negroes. And they walk you out and show you everything that they have. Like they little white women or little white men. Showing you how they acquired it generation after generation because we were in the slave business. What about the richest continent in the world being Africa? That's right. We are owed not only reparations, but repatriation. We are owed not only reparations, but repatriation. We are owed not only reparations, but repatriation.
The emergence of the modern global capitalist system is inextricably linked to the control and movement of labor on an unprecedented scale. Long before factories and steam engines, the first truly international commodity chains were built not on goods, but on human capital. In this nascent economic landscape, a class of visionary entrepreneurs emerged who understood the fundamental mechanics of supply, demand, and market leverage. Among the most powerful and adept were a cadre of black capitalists who, operating within the existing economic paradigms of their time, seized control of critical nodes in these networks. By mastering the logistics of labor and commodity markets, they amassed extraordinary wealth and influence, not as passive participants, but as architects of their own destinies and formidable builders of the early global economy. These figures were strategic intermediaries, cultural translators, and political power brokers. From the bustling ports of West Africa to the vast interior of the continent, they built commercial empires that responded to and shaped global demand. Their genius lay in their ability to forge alliances, monopolize trade routes, and pivot their business models with shifting international pressures. While European capital provided the ships and distant markets, it was often these indigenous and Afro-diasporic magnates who controlled the source of the labor supply, the most valuable and volatile commodity of the age. Their operations required a sophisticated understanding of diplomacy, credit, logistics, and risk management, hallmarks of any sophisticated capitalist enterprise. Beyond the previously celebrated figures like Seriki Williams Abbas and Francisco Felix de Souza, others left an indelible mark. The legendary Madame Efunroye Tinubu, from her base in Lagos and Abeokuta, constructed a vast commercial network dealing in luxury goods and labor, eventually using her wealth to become a kingmaker and staunch political resistor against British colonial rule. Further east, the Zanzibari magnate Tipu Tip carved out a personal empire across Central Africa, controlling the flow of both ivory and labor with a private army and dictating terms to European powers. These titans, and countless others like them, were not merely cogs in a machine designed by others. They were active, calculating engineers of that machine, and their legacy is woven into the very fabric of the global economic order we know today. Pioneers of West African commerce and statecraft. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the West African coast was a vibrant, competitive theater of global trade. Figures like Seriki Williams Abbas exemplify the quintessential capitalist virtues of adaptability and strategic reinvention. A master linguist and diplomat, Abbas positioned himself as an indispensable middleman between European merchants and African markets. He first established a highly efficient enterprise as a labor supplier, operating a vast complex in Badagry that served as a hub for the transatlantic labor trade. When shifting international pressures transformed the market, Abbas brilliantly pivoted his existing infrastructure and networks to become a dominant general merchant in legitimate goods like tobacco and textiles. His career is a masterclass in reading market signals and repositioning a business for enduring success. Similarly, the exiled king of Lagos, Oba Adele, transformed political misfortune into economic opportunity. Alongside his wife, the formidable business magnate Madame Tinubu, he built a commercial empire in Badagry from the ground up, dealing in high-demand commodities. Their alliance was a stroke of strategic genius, merging political savvy with ruthless business efficiency to control key supply chains. Likewise, Oba Akinsemoyin of Lagos demonstrated the power of strategic economic policy. By granting exclusive trade monopolies to his Portuguese and Brazilian partners, he elevated Lagos from a minor port to the dominant economic hub of the Bight of Benin, attracting commerce and investment that fueled his kingdom's prosperity. Perhaps the most astute political economist of the era was Oba Akitoye. Facing a powerful rival, he did not merely seek military victory, but engineered a profound economic realignment. Recognizing the rising influence of British commercial interests, he negotiated a landmark deal. In exchange for their support in regaining his throne, he would abolish the existing labor trade system and open Lagos to legitimate commerce. This move was a brilliant capitalist gambit that secured his power and simultaneously positioned Lagos at the forefront of the new global trade economy, ensuring its continued relevance and wealth. The Nharas, matriarchs of Atlantic commerce. The economic landscape was profoundly shaped by women who transcended the limitations of their time to become powers in their own right. The Nharas, Euro-African women in ports like Casio and Gorée, were central figures in the Atlantic economy. Dona Rosa de Casio, Ossa de Carvalho Alvarenga, leveraged her dual heritage and marriage to a Portuguese official to build a commercial monopoly. She became the primary intermediary for trade between European colonizers and local networks, dealing in commodities and labor with a shrewdness that made her one of the most powerful economic figures in the region. In Angola, Ana Joaquina dos Santos e Silva ascended from the Afro-Portuguese class to become the wealthiest merchant in Luanda. She operated a vast commercial network that included plantations and an extensive trade with Brazil. When market shifts threatened her enterprises following the formal end of the transatlantic labor trade, she seamlessly transitioned her capital into banking and investments, financing the merchants and transport businesses of the new era. Her ability to pivot and reinvest capital marks her as a sophisticated modern capitalist. This tradition of female economic power was continued by figures like Betsy Heard and Elizabeth Fraser Skelton, Mammy Skelton. Heard inherited and expanded her father's trading empire, establishing a monopoly in Bereira and using her influence to mediate conflicts that threatened regional stability and commerce. Skelton, similarly, took over the Victoria trading fort and dominated exports from the Rio Nunes. Anticipating market changes, she strategically shifted her investments from labor to large-scale peanut cultivation, ensuring her wealth endured long after the original source had diminished. Architects of inland empires. The entrepreneurial spirit was equally potent inland, where leaders built economic empires based on control over resources and trade routes. Misiri carved out the powerful Yeke kingdom in Katanga by seizing control of the vast copper deposits and the lucrative trade routes linking the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. His entire state was essentially a corporate enterprise, built on mineral wealth and strategic alliances that allowed him to negotiate from a position of strength with European colonial powers. In what is now Nigeria, Chief Efunsetan Aniwura became one of the wealthiest individuals of her time through an immense operation that included vast farmlands worked by thousands of laborers and a dominant role in the regional commodity trade. Her authoritarian management style was geared towards maximizing productivity and profit, embodying a ruthless capitalist efficiency. Similarly, Rabi Az-Zubair ibn Fadl Allah rose from a lieutenant to a sovereign ruler by mastering logistics and military strategy. He established a sprawling economic zone built on efficient resource extraction and administration, implementing standardized tax codes and legal systems to create a stable environment for commerce. Negotiators and cultural intermediaries. The complexity of transatlantic trade required figures who could navigate the profound cultural divides between continents. William Ansa Sesaraku and Little Ephraim and Ancona Robin John were aristocrats who turned their unique understanding of European customs into commercial advantage. Captured and enslaved despite their status, they used their literacy and diplomatic skills to petition for their freedom in European courts. Once returned to Africa, they became invaluable intermediaries, negotiating trade treaties and playing European powers against each other to secure the most favorable terms for their homelands, thus acting as both cultural translators and economic agents for their people. Perhaps the most iconic of these intermediaries was Francisco Felix de Souza, the Brazilian-born Viceroy of Ouida. A master of diplomacy and market manipulation, de Souza's support was crucial in installing King Gezo of Dahomey. In return, he was granted a vice-regal title and a dominant position in the kingdom's economy. He became the patriarch of a vast Afro-Brazilian commercial community, embedding himself as a central pillar in the economic and cultural life of the region. Conclusion: a foundational legacy. The narratives of these entrepreneurs reveal a profound truth. They were, first and foremost, capitalists of the highest order. They operated within the frameworks of their time, identifying lucrative market opportunities within the global demand for labor and commodities. Their genius lay in their unparalleled ability to adapt, to pivot their business models in response to shifting international pressures, to forge strategic alliances that consolidated their power, and to reinvest their capital into new ventures that would ensure their lasting legacy. To enshrine them in the legacy of Black capitalism is to recognize them not as passive figures in a historical drama, but as active, calculating architects of economic systems. They built sophisticated commercial networks, managed complex logistics, wielded political influence, and accumulated vast wealth, thereby laying the foundational stones for the modern economic landscapes of West and Central Africa. Their stories are a testament to resilience, strategic innovation, and an indomitable entrepreneurial spirit that forever changed the course of history and deserves its rightful place in the global narrative of enterprise and capital.
Siriki Williams Abbas is a figure whose life exemplifies the resilience and entrepreneurial spirit that marked some of the most successful Black capitalists of the 19th century. Born into slavery in Ijoga Orile, Ogun State, Abbas's life took a dramatic turn when he was purchased by a Brazilian slave merchant named Williams. What sets Abbas apart is his adaptability and intelligence, traits that would serve him well as he transitioned from slave to global businessman. In Brazil, He mastered multiple languages, learning English, Dutch, Portuguese, and Spanish, thus positioning himself as a key player in the transatlantic trade. Recognizing his exceptional skills, his master refused to sell him, instead grooming him to become a business partner. Upon his return to Africa, Abbas capitalized on his connections with Williams and other European traders. His barracoon in Badagry, constructed with his profits and slave labor, became a central hub in the West African slave trade, where he operated as a middleman. With 40 cells for men and women awaiting transport to Europe and America, Abbas maximized the efficiency of his business, supplying the global demand for labor. But when the abolition of slavery forced a change in the market, Abbas swiftly pivoted, leveraging his existing network to become a general merchant dealing in goods like tobacco and textiles. His story is not just one of survival, but of strategic reinvention, showing how the sharpest minds could thrive in shifting economic landscapes. Oba Adel's story reveals a man who not only ruled a kingdom, but also transformed his misfortune into opportunity through commerce. Twice exiled from the throne of Lagos, Adel found himself in Badagry, a bustling hub of the Atlantic trade. It was here that he and his wife, Madame Tinubu, began trading in tobacco, salt, and most profitably, slaves. Together, they forged a business empire that thrived on the expanding global markets. Badagry's strategic location along the West African coast provided Adel the perfect opportunity to engage in trade with European merchants, turning his exile into a new form of power. What makes Adel's story compelling is his ability to navigate both political and economic realms. While he may have lost the throne temporarily, his marriage to Madame Tinubu created a formidable business alliance that helped him amass wealth and influence. As he built his commercial empire, he laid the foundations for future African traders, merging political leadership with capitalist enterprise. His ability to adapt and profit during times of political instability is a hallmark of the successful capitalist mindset. If there was a blueprint for how African leaders could harness the burgeoning global economy to their advantage, Oba Akinsamoyen wrote it. As Oba of Lagos from 1704 to 1749, he capitalized on the connections he had established during his exile in Badagry, where he had first engaged with European traders. Upon ascending to the throne, he granted a monopoly on the slave trade to his Portuguese and Brazilian partners, elevating Lagos into a dominant port in the Bight of Benin. Under Akinsamoyen's reign, Lagos surpassed Wida and Porto Novo as the go-to port for the most lucrative commodity of the time, human labor. Akinsamoyen's brilliance lay in his ability to see the potential in global trade and to position his kingdom as an essential player in the Atlantic economy. His reign also saw infrastructural advancements like the tiling of Iga Idungnaran, Lagos Royal Palace, gifted to him by grateful Portuguese merchants. His strategic partnerships and investments in commerce marked him as one of the great architects of African wealth, building an economy that would endure long after his death. Oba Ikitoye's story is one of economic pragmatism and shrewd diplomacy. Ascending to the throne during a period of fierce political rivalry, Akitoye was faced with the challenge of Kosoko, a rival claimant who commanded greater military support. But Akitoye was not merely a king. He was a visionary capitalist who saw the winds of change sweeping across the world. Exiled to Badagry after Kosoko's forces overthrew him, Akitoye didn't merely seek military revenge. Instead, he forged an alliance with the British, recognizing that aligning with their anti-slavery cause could offer him the chance to regain power. In a masterstroke of capitalist foresight, Akitoye promised to abolish the slave trade in Lagos in exchange for British support. By leveraging his connections and understanding the value of free trade to European interests, Akitoye secured his second reign as Oba in 1851, with British forces backing his return to the throne. This act not only solidified his political power, but also positioned Lagos as a key port in the emerging global trade networks that would shape the modern world. Ossa de Carvalho Alvarenga, born to a Portuguese father from Cape Verde and an African mother, exemplifies the intricate connections between colonial power and commerce. As a member of the Euro-African Nhara community, she navigated her dual heritage to establish herself in the burgeoning capitalist markets of the Atlantic slave trade. Rosa married João Pereira Barreto, a Portuguese official, and together they had a son, Honorio Pereira Barreto, who served as governor from 1830 to 1859. This marriage positioned Rosa at the intersection of political power and economic influence, leveraging her familial ties for commercial gain. Rosa's involvement in the slave trade extended beyond mere participation. She became a pivotal intermediary in the exchange of slaves, cotton, rice, and beeswax between Portuguese colonizers and indigenous Africans. By establishing herself in the labor market, Rosa effectively exploited the system, maximizing profit from the commodification of human lives and agricultural products. Rosa's diplomatic skills allowed her to mediate during conflicts, especially notable during the 1840s. Her political influence fostered cooperation between Portuguese colonizers and local communities, facilitating a capitalist framework that benefited her business interests while perpetuating the cycles of exploitation. By the 1850s, Rosa nearly monopolized the slave trade in the Cacheu region, showcasing her significant power in shaping labor markets. Her life illustrates the intersection of gender, commerce, and colonialism, highlighting the complexities of women's roles in capitalist systems during the era of the slave trade. Ana Joaquina dos Santos e Silva belonged to the privileged Afro-Portuguese class, a small yet influential community within the economic landscape of Luanda, Angola. Her status afforded her unique opportunities in the burgeoning capitalist environment, where the white European population was minimal. As a leading slave trader during the 1830s and 1840s, Ana played a crucial role in the illegal trade between Angola and Brazil, despite the formal ban on the slave trade in 1836. Her ownership of sugar and coffee plantations solidified her economic power, contributing to the exploitation of labor markets in both the agricultural and slave trading sectors. Residing in a lavish three-story palace, Ana's success in the slave trade enabled her to transition into banking and investment after the Brazilian ban on the slave trade in 1850. By financing merchants and transport businesses, she became a central figure in Angola's economic structure, perpetuating capitalist dynamics that benefited her financially while continuing the cycle of exploitation. Ana Joaquina dos Santos e Silva's life encapsulates the interplay of race, commerce, and power during a transformative period in Angolan and Brazilian history. Her significant contributions to the economic landscape reflect the complex relationships forged within capitalist frameworks, highlighting the role of Afro-Portuguese individuals in shaping the dynamics of colonial trade. Born in Ikija Egba, Chief Efunsetan Aniwura's entrepreneurial spirit emerged from a lineage of traders. Her family's background laid the groundwork for her later success in the lucrative slave trade, where she became one of the wealthiest Yoruba women in history. Aniwura's multiple marriages and the loss of her only child at birth influenced her relentless pursuit of wealth and power. This personal tragedy spurred her to adopt a ruthless leadership style, which she wielded to maximize profits in the slave and agricultural markets. After relocating to Ibadan, Aniwura owned about 2,000 slaves and numerous farms, exporting tobacco and agricultural produce. Her business practices, marked by authoritarianism, included strict rules for her slaves that aimed to maximize labor output while minimizing costs. Her operations exemplified the harsh realities of capitalist exploitation within the slave economy. Anura rose to the title of Iyalode of Ibadan, gaining political power alongside her economic influence. However, her conflicts with other leaders, including Ari Latusa, culminated in her deposition and eventual assassination. Her life serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of gender and power in a capitalist framework, where wealth often incited rivalries leading to tragic ends. Born in the 1640s, John Kabes emerged as a prominent trader in the port city of Komenda, Ghana. His lineage as the son of a significant African official laid the groundwork for his later successes as a key player in the British-dominated trade networks of the Gold Coast. By the late 1680s, Kabes controlled Komenda, supplying the British Royal African Company with resources and slaves. His refusal to trade with the Dutch established him as a powerful economic force, allowing him to manipulate labor markets to his advantage. By becoming a monopolist in the region, Kabes centralized trade and kept the best goods for himself, reaping significant profits. Kabes's economic might translated into political authority, where he effectively led Komenda, resisting colonial powers while capitalizing on the local labor market. His strategic alliances with the British, combined with his negotiation skills, allowed him to navigate and exploit the dynamics of power during the rise of the Ashanti Empire and the Atlantic slave trade. Kabes's death in 1722 marked the end of an era in which he had established a robust economic and political network. The subsequent transition of power to his heirs illustrated the enduring impact of his capitalist strategies. His legacy highlights the intricate relationships between trade, power, and exploitation in the Atlantic world, underscoring the role of African traders in shaping the colonial economy. Julia da Silva Cardoso, also known as Mai Julia, was a prominent Euro-African Nhara and slave trader in the 19th century, playing a significant role in the trade between Portuguese colonizers and indigenous African populations. She functioned as both a businesswoman and a political mediator. Raised by the Portuguese trader José da Silva Cardoso in Cape Verde, she is believed to be either his daughter or close kin. Julia married Portuguese merchant Joaquim Antonio de Mato, and through her connections, she expanded her influence in the region, managing the complex interactions between European traders and African chiefs. Similarly, Kivoi Mwendwa, the first recorded chief of the Kamba people in Kenya, became prominent in the early 19th century. Kivoi was a wealthy trader who facilitated interactions between the Kamba and foreign traders, dealing in ivory, minerals, and slaves. He also played a key role in introducing the first Christian missionaries to the interior of Kenya, although their initial efforts to evangelize the Kamba were largely unsuccessful. Dona Francisca Josefa de Moura Meneses, also known as Francisca Chiponda, was a powerful Afro-Portuguese slave owner and trader in 18th and early 19th century Mozambique. As one of the most influential donas in the region, she amassed wealth through her landholdings, slave trading, and agricultural production. She supported Portuguese colonial expeditions and maintained a network of kinship and trade alliances that extended her influence until her death around 1825. Dona Aurelia Correa, another formidable Nhara and slave trader in the West African region of Guinea-Bissau, was recognized for her dominance in local and regional trade, particularly in the 19th century. Raised by Julia da Silva Cardoso, Aurelia became a key political and commercial intermediary between the Portuguese, local chiefs, and other foreign traders, such as the French. By the mid-19th century, Aurelia had transitioned from slave trading to large-scale peanut farming, exporting crops to France and establishing herself as one of the most influential businesswomen in the region. The late 1730s, and by 1740, he had become a prominent figure in the local trade network. As a cabossier, Kwadwo Aguirre played a crucial role in the British transatlantic slave trade, facilitating the exchange of enslaved Africans with European traders. His influence extended beyond the slave trade. He was actively involved in diplomatic relations between British colonial authorities and local African states. Kwadwo often negotiated treaties and agreements, helping to secure British interests in the region, while also advancing his own power and that of the Efik people. He worked closely with the Royal African Company, which granted him the authority to regulate trade and resolve disputes among local merchants and foreign traders. Later years and legacy. In the latter part of his life, Kwadwo became increasingly involved in local politics and governance. He was instrumental in establishing the foundations of the Fante Confederation, a political alliance aimed at consolidating power and resisting external threats, particularly from the Ashanti Empire. Kwadwo's leadership was characterized by his ability to navigate complex political landscapes, often balancing the interests of the British with those of the local chiefs and his own people. Kwadwo Aguirre's legacy is marked by his significant contributions to the socio-economic development of the Gold Coast during the 18th century. His interactions with British merchants and colonial officials helped shape the dynamics of the transatlantic slave trade and the emerging colonial economy. He is remembered as a pivotal figure in the history of the Fante people and the broader context of West African trade and politics during a transformative period. Both Osman Digna and Kwadwo Aguirre exemplify the complex roles that African leaders played in the context of colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade. While Digna is often remembered for his military leadership and resistance against colonial forces in Sudan, Aguirre's legacy lies in his commercial acumen and political influence in the Gold Coast. Together, their stories reflect the diverse experiences of African leaders in navigating the challenges and opportunities presented by colonial encounters. Mary Faber, also known as Mary Faber de Sanger, and Gogo Habiba, both prominent figures in the Atlantic slave trade during the 19th century, exemplified the complex interplay of capitalism and exploitation that characterized this dark chapter in history. Born around 1798 in Freetown, Mary Faber emerged as a dominant player in the Guinea slave trade, managing a slave fortress at the Rio Pongo River with her husband, Paul Faber. When he became largely absent from business, Mary assumed full control, overseeing the operations of the slave trade while strategically navigating alliances with local tribes and rival traders. Her ability to maintain a robust network in a highly competitive environment, including her command of a private army, allowed her to thrive even as the British Royal Navy intensified efforts to suppress the slave trade. Faber's ventures extended to the agricultural sector as she gradually shifted her focus to peanut and coffee cultivation, showcasing her adaptability within the evolving economic landscape. Similarly, Gogo Habiba, a Fulani noblewoman, exerted considerable influence in Nupaland as a slave merchant and military leader. The daughter of the influential Malam Dendo, Habiba rose to prominence during the mid-19th century, commanding a slave depot at Badegi Lapai and conducting slave raids on neighboring settlements. Her strategic alliances, particularly with other powerful figures like Emir Masaba and influential merchants like Madame Tinubu, exemplified the interconnectedness of trade networks during this period. Habiba's leadership and economic acumen allowed her to build a significant following and maintain a formidable standing army, further solidifying her status as a key player in the slave trade. Both women were instrumental in shaping the capitalist structures of their respective regions, contributing to the modern economy through their participation in the slave trade and agricultural enterprises. Their exploits exemplify the intersections of gender, power, and capitalism in a time when the exploitation of human lives was a cornerstone of economic growth. as they navigated the complexities of trade, alliances, and conflict. Faber and Habiba not only contributed to their local economies, but also played significant roles in the broader Atlantic economic system, which would eventually pave the way for modern capitalist practices. Their legacies serve as reminders of the complex economic forces that have shaped contemporary society and the moral implications of wealth generated through exploitation. Muhammad Hamid Yaji served as the Emir of Madagali, Nigeria, within the Adamawa Emirate. He is particularly noted for his personal diary, which chronicles daily life and activities from 1912 to 1927, during his time as a Fulbe raider and slave trader near the border of modern-day Adamawa State, Nigeria, and Mayo-Tsanaga in the far north region of Cameroon. Over a span of 9 years, Yaji is reported to have conducted over 100 raids, resulting in the rustling of livestock, the enslavement of approximately 2,016 individuals, and the deaths of at least 200 men, 168 of whom he specifically mentions in his records. Originally written in Arabic, his diary provides a rare local perspective on the daily life of sub-Saharan Africa in the early 20th century under colonial rule, shedding light on the practices of raiding and the slave trade that were prevalent during that period. In the southeastern region of present-day Tanzania, Hassan bin Omari, also known as Makunganya, emerged as a prominent and successful Muslim ivory and slave trader and caravan raider, serving as a chief of the Mavuji. His exploits were marked by his resistance against German occupying forces, which ultimately led to his capture and execution by German troops. Understanding Makunganya's background is crucial for contextualizing the uprisings against German colonial rule and British presence in Eastern and Southern Africa. The Makanjila Yao people, from whom he hailed, controlled the main trade route from Lake Nyasa to the coast, facilitating a thriving trade in slaves and ivory that had been well established since the early 17th century. Hassan bin Omari's significant involvement in the 1888 uprisings highlights the resistance of the Yao people against colonial powers. The Makanjila Yao had largely converted to Islam, and their economic success was tied to their control of the lucrative caravan routes leading to the coastal ports, particularly Kilwa Kivinje, which had become a central hub for the exportation of slaves and other commodities. Following the cession of coastal trade rights to the German East Africa Company, the Yao's dissatisfaction with foreign control led to an armed rebellion in Kilwa Kivinje, involving a coalition of local people dissatisfied with German administration. The uprising escalated when German officials were killed, igniting a series of violent confrontations that prompted a strong military response from the Germans. Despite initial successes, the uprisings were eventually quelled by the German forces under Hermann von Wissmann, who sought to suppress resistance in the region. By 1890, the rebellions had largely subsided, but Hassan bin Omari continued to lead resistance efforts from the Mavuji Mountains. His eventual capture and execution in 1894 marked a significant loss for the Makanjila people, who had long fought to protect their territory and trade networks from colonial encroachment. Both Yaji and Makunganya's stories illustrate the complexities of African agency, economic exploitation, and the impacts of colonialism, providing insights into the intertwined histories of trade, resistance, and the legacies of exploitation that shaped the modern economy in the region. Their exploits contributed to the economic frameworks of their societies, highlighting the dual role of traders as both agents of commerce and participants in violent conflicts that defined the colonial landscape in Africa. The narrative surrounding African slave traders like Kojali Al-Hassan, Betsy Heard, the Jumbis of Nkota Kota, and Fenda Lawrence often skews towards moral judgment, overshadowing their roles as pioneering capitalists. This reimagining reveals how these figures significantly contributed to the modern economy, showcasing their business acumen and strategic enterprises within the complex fabric of their time. Khojali Al-Hassan, the Sheikh of Bela Shan, exemplifies the entrepreneurial spirit of early 20th century Africa. Initially a traditional local ruler in Sudan, he skillfully navigated the geopolitical shifts following Ethiopia's annexation of his territory. By 1908, Al-Hassan had established himself as a prominent slave merchant, leveraging his autonomy to create a thriving trade network between Sudan and Ethiopia. His operations were sophisticated. He not only trafficked slaves, but also established a familial business model, with his wife and children managing branches of his trade. In a single year, he was reported to have trafficked 13,000 slaves, capitalizing on the demand for labor in both regions. His trade routes and strategic alliances illustrate a remarkable capacity for capital accumulation and economic influence in a period marked by colonial upheaval. Betsy Heard's story further underscores the dynamics of African entrepreneurship. As a Euro-African trader in the late 18th century, Heard transformed her father's legacy into a thriving trading enterprise. By establishing a monopoly on the slave trade in Bereira, she not only generated significant wealth, but also wielded political influence, mediating disputes that averted conflict and fostered trade stability. Her ability to navigate both African and European markets, alongside her entrepreneurial ventures in the face of local power shifts, solidified her status as a key economic player in West Africa. The European-style furnishings of her home and her connections to prominent trading families demonstrate her successful assimilation into the global trade network of her time. The Jumbes of Nkhotakota represent another facet of this narrative, showcasing the intersection of trade, culture, and religion. Founded by Salim bin Abdallah in the mid-19th century, this dynasty established a powerful trading network that not only dealt in slaves and ivory, but also introduced agriculture and Islam to the region. Their strategic control over trade routes and resources allowed them to flourish economically, turning Nkhotakota into a vibrant trade center. The Jumbi's ability to integrate local customs while promoting their own interests illustrates a complex understanding of both economic and cultural capital. Lastly, Fenda Lawrence's journey as a free Black woman in the 18th century illustrates the agency and entrepreneurial spirit of African traders. Operating out of Caire, she facilitated trade between British and French interests and local Africans, leveraging her unique position to navigate complex trade relationships. Her journey to the 13 colonies not only highlights her commercial ambitions, but also her status as a significant economic actor. By advocating for her rights and interests in a foreign land, Lawrence epitomizes the resilience and adaptability of African traders in the global market. In the annals of African history, figures like Little Ephraim Robin John and Ancona. Robin John emerged not merely as victims of the slave trade, but as influential capitalists who navigated the treacherous waters of commerce and negotiation in the 18th century. Members of the ruling family of Old Town in Calabar, Nigeria, these men were not only linguistically gifted and literate, but also adept negotiators. Their deep understanding of the slave trade enabled them to leverage their position within the Efik clan, making them valuable assets in a landscape marked by competition and ambition. Tragically, their entrepreneurial spirit was disrupted when they were kidnapped during a rival trade expedition, sold to British slave traders while their king, Grandee King George, was negotiating terms with the Duke of Newtown. The Robin Johns found themselves ensnared in a system designed to exploit their skills. Despite their captivity, their resilience shone through as they petitioned British courts for their freedom, a testament to their enduring spirit and legal acumen. Their early experiences reflect the complex interplay of power and trade in Old Calabar, where rivalries led to violent ambushes and betrayals. Captured and sold into slavery, they were transported to Dominica and later Virginia, where they endured the harsh realities of being enslaved by John Thompson, a ruthless trader who recognized their potential yet sought to dominate their lives. Yet their determination to return to Africa remained unwavering, culminating in their daring escape aboard the Greyhound, aided by sympathetic sailors who recognized their plight. Once in England, the Robin Johns leveraged their connections, particularly with prominent traders like Thomas Jones, who had maintained close ties with the ruling families in Old Calabar. Their successful petition for freedom in 1772 showcased not just their personal triumph, but also illustrated the emerging legal frameworks that would shape capitalist societies. Their return to Calabar in 1794 marked a significant turning point. They were not merely survivors, but catalysts for change, influencing local dynamics and advocating for new economic opportunities. In a parallel narrative, Zolu Duma, also known as King Peter, exemplified the entrepreneurial spirit among African rulers in the early 19th century. As a Bassa Day ruler on Bushrod Island in Liberia, he engaged with European powers, recognizing the importance of land and trade in shaping his community's future. His initial willingness to negotiate land sales with the American Colonization Society demonstrates a strategic vision to harness external alliances for local benefit, albeit faced with coercive tactics from colonial forces. Zolu Duma's eventual downfall illustrates the volatile intersection of commerce and power in a colonial context, where African leaders navigated precarious negotiations amid growing European ambitions. The narrative of Bibiana Vaz de França further exemplifies this entrepreneurial spirit within the African context. A Luso-African Nara slave trader in Guinea-Bissau, Bibiana built a formidable trading empire stretching from the Gambia River to Sierra Leone. Her assertive leadership in establishing control over trade routes and her ability to resist Portuguese dominance highlight the economic agency of African traders. Despite her eventual arrest, her legacy persisted as a symbol of resilience against colonial pressures. Similarly, Chief Oshodi Landuji Tapa's journey from slavery to a powerful figure in Lagos reflects the adaptability and strategic maneuvering of African leaders during colonial transitions. Originally enslaved, Tapa's rise as a war captain and a trusted advisor to Oba Kosoko demonstrated how individuals could navigate and thrive within oppressive systems. By the time Lagos was annexed as a British colony, Tapa had successfully transitioned from the slave trade into legitimate commerce, expanding into palm oil and ivory production, thereby contributing to the burgeoning global economy. These narratives intertwine to paint a portrait of African slave traders not merely as exploiters or victims, but as astute capitalists who navigated complex socio-economic landscapes. Their resilience, strategic alliances, and eventual triumphs underscore the critical roles they played in shaping modern economies through their business acumen and profound understanding of trade dynamics. Their legacies remind us that the history of capitalism is intricately tied to the experiences and contributions of those who, despite adversity, forged pathways toward economic empowerment. Francisco Felix de Souza stands out as a quintessential entrepreneur, often regarded as the greatest slave trader. Born in Brazil and later migrating to what is now Benin, de Souza became a significant player in the palm oil, gold, and slave trades. His establishment as the Chacha of Ouida, though informal, bestowed upon him immense respect and influence within the kingdom of Dahomey. De Souza's strategic alliances, especially during political upheaval, showcase his ability to navigate complex power dynamics, culminating in his pivotal role in assisting Gezo's ascent to the throne. Not merely a trader, he was a cultural intermediary who founded Afro-Brazilian communities in West Africa, thereby solidifying his legacy as a foundational patriarch of contemporary African states. Elizabeth Fraser Skelton, known as Mammy Skelton, represents the entrepreneurial spirit that transcended racial boundaries. Born into a family of slave traders, she inherited her father's business acumen after his death, skillfully managing the slave-trading Fort Victoria at the Rio Nunez. Her innovative approach to commerce allowed her to dominate the regional business landscape, where she was responsible for half of the region's exports. In a time when the British and American markets began to close, Skelton adapted by shifting focus to peanut cultivation, illustrating her remarkable ability to pivot in response to market demands. Her life exemplifies the resilience of Black women in business, challenging societal norms and redefining their roles in commerce. The story of William Ansa Seseriku provides another lens through which to view the entrepreneurial landscape of the 18th century. Born into a prominent family in Ghana, Ansa's early aspirations for education in England took an unexpected turn when he was enslaved in Barbados. His eventual emancipation and return to Anamabo equipped him with the knowledge and networks to engage in trade effectively. As a royal figure, he wielded considerable influence, playing British and French traders against each other to secure advantageous trade deals for his community. His life journey not only reflects the complexities of identity and commerce during the transatlantic slave trade, but also serves as a testament to the capacity of African leaders to navigate and manipulate the global economic landscape. Finally, Anne Rossignol, a remarkable Sinare businesswoman, exemplifies the potential of strategic investment and real estate in the slave economy. Originally from Gorée, she became one of the wealthiest free women of color in the French colony of Saint-Domingue. Rossignol's ventures in the slave trade and her substantial real estate investments positioned her among the elite of the colony, living in opulence that rivaled many white planters. Her ability to navigate a male-dominated business landscape highlights the economic agency of women in the slave trade, defying the limitations imposed by societal expectations. Rabi Azubair ibn Fadl. Allah, commonly known as Rabah, was not just a warlord. He was a pioneering force in the complex and ruthless world of 19th century capitalism in Africa. Born around 1842 in Halfaya al-Muluk, a suburb of Khartoum, he rose from a soldier in the irregular Egyptian cavalry to a formidable leader who established a powerful empire east of Lake Chad, in what is now Chad. Rabi's entrepreneurial spirit was evident from the onset of his career, as he adeptly navigated the volatile environment of slave trading and warfare, positioning himself at the forefront of economic exploitation. In the bustling marketplace of Khartoum, which had become a significant Arab slave market, Rabi leveraged his connections and military prowess to capitalize on the burgeoning slave trade. This thriving market was fueled by the efforts of traders like Al-Zubair Rahma Mansour, who controlled key territories and markets. Rabi served as a chief lieutenant to this influential slaveholder, learning the intricacies of the trade and honing his skills in logistics and resource management. This apprenticeship in the art of slavery laid the groundwork for his later exploits, allowing him to understand the importance of supply chains and the ruthless efficiency needed to dominate such a lucrative enterprise. As he broke away from Egyptian control, Rabi harnessed the very tactics of the Khartoumi traders, carving out his own kingdom between the Nile and Ubangi rivers. His approach was not merely about conquest. It was a calculated business strategy that involved careful planning and execution. By establishing fortified bases and recruiting skilled fighters, he ensured a steady supply of manpower for his campaigns and slave trading operations. His empire became a hub of economic activity, significantly impacting regional trade dynamics and the flow of goods and human resources. Rabi's military campaigns were strategic ventures that underscored his vision as a capitalist leader. He skillfully invaded and subjugated neighboring territories such as the Bagirmi Kingdom and the Borno Empire, turning them into sources of wealth and labor. In doing so, he didn't just destroy, he created new economic opportunities through forced labor and tribute. His alliances, such as the one forged through the marriage of his son to the daughter of a local chief, exemplified his understanding of leveraging relationships to enhance his economic power. The imposition of his suzerainty over these regions further solidified his control, ensuring a steady influx of resources and slaves to fuel his expanding empire. Despite the brutality that often characterized his reign, Rabi's administrative reforms in the Borno Empire demonstrated his ambition to modernize and streamline operations. He imposed a legal code based on Sharia, rationalized taxation, and maintained a military dictatorship that not only kept the peace, but also maximized economic output. This systematic approach to governance attracted the attention of colonial powers and showcased his ability to implement capitalist principles within a feudal system. Rabi's quest for modern military technology, including attempts to acquire gunpowder from the Royal Niger Company, illustrated his commitment to maintaining competitive advantages over both rival warlords and colonial powers. His relentless pursuit of resources was not just a means to wage war. It was a sophisticated business tactic aimed at ensuring the longevity and success of his empire. Each engagement and every battle served as an opportunity to consolidate power and generate wealth, affirming his status as a true capitalist in the historical narrative of Africa. Ultimately, Rabi's life and career encapsulate the complexities of African capitalism during a time marked by both exploitation and resilience. While he was involved in the slave trade, a morally reprehensible yet economically pivotal aspect of his empire, his legacy as a warlord and capitalist cannot be overlooked. Through his strategic operations, alliances, and administrative reforms, Rabi az-Zubair ibn Fadl Allah emerged not just as a figure of power, but as a quintessential example of how African leaders navigated and shaped the modern economic landscape amidst the tumult of their time. Born around 1615, Crispina hailed from a lineage of astute African women traders who deftly operated in vital ports along the West African coast, including Guinguim, Farim, Cacheu, and Geba. She was a central figure in trade networks that connected regional markets to the international stage, demonstrating the intricate business acumen of African traders. Crispina adeptly exchanged goods from European traders for human beings, facilitating the movement of enslaved individuals to various destinations in the Americas and Portugal. Her business operations in Cacheu underscored her strategic involvement in the slave trade and the Atlantic economy between 1640 and 1668. Crispina's entrepreneurial spirit came from her family background. Her father, Rodrigo Perez Baltazar, was a foreign trader from Terceira Island who established himself in Guinguim. Crispina inherited his business acumen, navigating a male-dominated trade environment. Her marriage to Captain Francisco Núñez de Andrade solidified her influence, and after his death, she married Jorge Gonçalves Frances, the Captain General of Cacheu, enhancing her power. With control over trade routes and connections with indigenous leaders, Crispina exemplified how women in the African slave trade were shrewd business people who significantly impacted the economy. Anne Pépin also thrived as a capitalist in Gorée, French Senegal. Born to an Afro-European family, her connections with powerful Europeans, including Governor Stanislas de Boufflers, leveraged her status as a signier to bridge European traders and local African communities. While records don't confirm her direct involvement in the slave trade, her family's business bolstered Goré's slave economy. Her real estate investments and logistical support showcased her business savvy and understanding of power dynamics. Cadilouet, born to a Frenchman and an African mother, became one of Gorey's most successful seigneuries. As the seigneur consort of a French official, she amassed great wealth, owning 68 slaves and running a thriving business in a community where many traded slaves without retaining them. Her ownership of one of Gorey's first grand European stone houses underscored her status as a powerful capitalist. Chief Daniel Conrad Taiwo, or Taiwo Olowo, emerged as a pivotal figure in colonial Lagos. His roles as a trader, arms dealer, and community leader exemplified the entrepreneurial spirit of African traders. His philanthropic efforts and political influence highlighted the importance of African contributions to global trade. Nyarabelli was a trailblazing entrepreneur in 19th century Guinea. Born around 1790 to Emmanuel Gomez, a Luso-African ruler, her Liverpool education equipped her to manage a trading settlement after marrying prominent slave trader Styles Edward Lightbourne. Under her leadership, the outpost became a thriving business hub, demonstrating her capability as a formidable businesswoman and exemplifying the capitalist spirit. Masiri established a kingdom in Katanga through military strategy and commerce. As a Nyamwezi, his experience in ivory and copper trades helped him dominate key trade routes linking the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, earning him alliances with influential warlords. His wealth from trading commodities empowered his kingdom and allowed him to strategically resist colonial encroachments. In Nigeria, Efonroye Tinubu exemplified the enterprising spirit of African leaders. A Yoruba aristocrat and merchant, her marriages helped forge alliances that expanded her trading networks in Lagos. Her extensive dealings with European merchants in slaves, tobacco, and firearms allowed her to accumulate wealth and wield political influence. Despite British restrictions on the slave trade, Tinubu's resilience enabled her to continue clandestine trading and support local resistance, marking her as a symbol of defiance against colonial oppression. These individuals redefined African capitalism, navigating socio-political landscapes and establishing trade routes that contributed significantly to modern economies. While their roles in the slave trade cast shadows on their legacies, recognizing their contributions to commerce is essential. They were architects of their economies, leveraging their positions to foster growth and stability during transformative times. Acknowledging them as influential capitalists highlights the complexity of their contributions to African history.
True as gold to comma green, we steady on the rise. Digging truth from ancient scenes, we open blinded eyes. Rhyme sharp like pirates' lines, we break the bondage tight. Kamji speaking revolution, keep the fire burning. Big drums guide our stride, we march with purpose proud. No more silence, we collide, our voices thunder loud. Politics and history, we stitch them in every verse. From Pharaoh's throne to Yaoundé streets, we claim the Kamji verse.